Bill Harford is far from a hero. He's a fool who wanders into a world where he doesn't belong, leaving a trail of collateral damage and death behind him. Whereas Victor Ziegler is the only person in the movie actually taking responsibility for both his and Bill's mistakes. He risked everything to save his friend. And so in the context of this story, Victor Ziegler is the real hero of Eyes Wide Shut. The tragedy of Bill Harford is that he treats his wife like a piece of furniture, just another object in his perfect life, a life that he sort of runs on autopilot. And if you actually analyze the dynamic between Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman in this film, including the famous conversation they had over a joint, it's obvious that Alice feels deeply invisible, emotionally unfulfilled, and taken for granted. When she confesses the fantasy about the naval officer, she is likely inventing the whole thing, or at least embellishing it, simply to provoke Bill into seeing her as a living, breathing woman and not just part of his script. But it doesn't work. Instead of finally seeing her, Bill only sees his own bruised ego and pathetic sexual jealousy. So he goes on a search for revenge, attempting to even the score by chasing sexual encounters across the New York night. But Bill's blindness isn't just toward his wife. He compromises his college buddy, Nick Nightingale, by pressuring him for information about the secret party. He pushes and pushes, even though Nick makes it clear that he could get in serious trouble if he got caught revealing this information. And what about the famous rainbow fashions scene? People like to decode endlessly about what this scene means, but at the end of the day, Bill witnesses a crime involving the owner's young daughter and two older men. He doesn't call the police or intervene, even though he had two opportunities, because doing so would interfere with his personal mission, and perhaps even a small part of him is titillated by the darkness. At the party at the mansion, the famous orgy ritual scene, there's a war going on for Bill's life. Two different contingents of this secret world are fighting for his life. Those who take the occult rituals literally and seriously, and those who see it more as a mere pageant. The true believers are led or represented by the man in the Bauta mask. This mask, historically, was worn by politically powerful people in government. The extended chin of the mask, the extended beak, allows the wearer to eat and drink while maintaining their anonymity. And it also creates a resonant cavity that projects the voice in crowded rooms and parties. And Kubrick didn't choose this mask by accident. It signifies that whoever is wearing this mask is someone with power. And this is the man who spots Bill, whose body language screams outsider, and clocks him as the intruder. Showing up in a taxi cab didn't help him either. A lot of people assume that this is Ziegler, but this is a false assumption. Sidney Pollack confirmed in an interview that he wasn't in that scene when they filmed it. But also, if you just look at the guy's eyes and neck and general build, it's a completely different person. But Ziegler confirms later that he was at the party. We never actually see him or identify him among the masks. It is here that Mandy approaches Bill. She desperately urges him to leave. Her warnings are serious and literal, but Bill is so dazzled by his surreal surroundings and blinded by his pursuit of sexual revenge that he treats her warnings as a minor inconvenience. This is when the man in the Bauta mask sends a woman to lead Bill away to his potential death or injury, we don't know. And this is when Mandy intervenes a second time. This time she's much more terrified. She tells him explicitly that both their lives are in danger. But Bill still doesn't listen, just like he never listened to his wife. His narcissism is a fortress. You see, what's really going on here is that Mandy is trying to help Bill at the behest of Ziegler. While Ziegler's exact occupation isn't ever given, it's clear that he's a man of immense influence. And he and Bill have a long-standing history of mutual discretion. This is what you get for making house calls. Bill tells Alice earlier in the film, implying that Bill has frequently handled Ziegler's private medical emergencies off the record, including helping Mandy in Ziegler's bathroom at the start of the movie. Now, Bill saved her life, and he kept his mouth shut, and Ziegler feels a genuine sense of debt. How would Mandy know that that was Tom Cruise in that mask? She would have had to have been told by someone higher up, more powerful, more knowledgeable, someone like Ziegler. Maybe their masks are wired with headphones and microphones. Ziegler tasks Mandy with getting Bill out of there before the true believers get a hold of him. But unfortunately, she doesn't succeed. When Bill is finally apprehended and brought to the main hall, failing the second password test, ordered to remove his clothing, it's clear that something bad is going to happen to him. This is when Mandy offers herself as a sacrifice to save him. Ziegler facilitated all of this by using the cult's own legalistic loopholes to keep his friend alive. Think about it. Bill still went to the mansion. He still knows too much information. So why doesn't the cult simply kill him? Especially afterwards when he's caught checking in on the situation and investigating. Because this society, this secret cult, they take their rules seriously. If Mandy redeemed herself for him, then that means that he doesn't get to die. This is what actually happens in the film, not some lost scene and plot points that never actually happen in the film that people allege, like their daughter being sacrificed or Alice being a part of the cult. None of that stuff actually makes any sense if you watch the movie. But because people are so dazzled by the masks and the occult imagery and the darkness, they get lulled. They get trapped in their own illusions that they conjure rather than seeing reality itself. This is my main reading of Eyes Wide Shut. It's a film about illusions. Bill is under the illusion that he's a good man living the perfect life, but his obsession with petty sexual jealousy leads him to ignore his wife, compromise his friends, overlook actual crimes against children. He is so blind that he doesn't see the damage he does to others. There's also the illusion that Ziegler is a bad man because he participates in a rotten, compromise-heavy system. But if he were truly evil, he wouldn't have risked his own standing to pull Bill out of a death trap. Ziegler is deeply flawed, but in this story, he's the only one acting heroically or responsibly. Then there's the illusion of the darkness, the secrecy, the sex and the degeneracy, the conspiracy. All of it is designed to lure you into a sense of intrigue, a sense of excitement, a sense of titillation. This is the same trap that blinded Bill to his actual situation. We see this with things today like the Epstein files. Most people scan them for the most shocking, depraved rumors and allegations. But meanwhile, they ignore the boring records, the nuts and bolts of power and corruption that reveal how the system actually works, because those things are much less exciting, much less dramatic. We like to think that if we ever reach that level of wealth and power, that we'd be the hero who stands up to the depraved elite. But the reality is that many people who end up at an Eyes Wide Shut party likely started off thinking that they were the good guys, only to find themselves making one compromise after another until they're shaking hands with people like Epstein just to keep the system moving. Bill Harford wouldn't have even been in that mansion if he had simply listened to his wife and paid attention to her, treated her like a real human being, treated her like an equal. If he had valued the reality of his marriage over the illusion of his own ego. But he chose to play a game that he didn't understand, and Ziegler was the only one there to save him. Ziegler isn't a monster. In Eyes Wide Shut, he's the savior. Life is a complex system. See clearly.